Hi, I'm Gracie, and for my contemporary social problems class, I will be talking about freedom of speech. In Canada, freedom of speech is the holy grail of debated current social issues. The definition for freedom of speech is stated the right to express any opinions without censorship or restraint. Freedom of speech is a highly debated topic in our world right now due to the high increase of people having a voice for a subject and getting called out for expressing it. This relates back to the class because it conveys back to the chapters we learned in this class. For example, gender equality and crime are subjects people have different opinions on and should be able to respectfully portray those thoughts without receiving backlash. This topic is valued by me and should be valued by others as well because it is a social issue that plays in our everyday life. This issue should be cared for because it has a lot of controversy right now of why people are getting lashed back for respectfully portraying their opinions on a subject. In the Department of Justice, freedom of expressions in Canada is protected as a fundamental freedom by Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter also permits the government to enforce reasonable limits. This means that freedom of speech is your right, but you cannot portray hate speech of any kind, which would not fall under freedom of speech. It also states on the Canadian Civil Liberties Association website that forcing an opinion on someone or putting words in their mouth is a violation of their liberty, freedom of thought, association, and expression. People get this confused, and I believe that's why there is so much conflict and debate on the matter because people confuse that freedom of speech allows them to argue their beliefs in a way even if hate speech is involved. This violates freedom of speech, and that's why I think it is so important for people to take an interest on this matter to avoid lashback by sticking to their beliefs without including hate speech in it. You may ask how this ties in our class, and it does in many different ways. For example, in Chapter 8, we went over a conflict perspective stated in that slide was racial and ethnic minorities perceived to be an economic threat. This topic can be taken in various ways, and the way this ties into freedom of speech is the reason that even though the subject can be understood in different ways, everyone has the right to explain their take on it in a respectful manner without violating the law of freedom of speech. We can take action to fix this by making it more aware to everyone and teaching it more in our everyday life. In conclusion, this topic is an issue in our lives and should be cared upon more for us to take action because in my eyes, I see it as like freedom of speech should be anyone's ability to speak upon whatever topic they choose to without receiving any negative lashback, as it would shut down their ability to speak amongst what they believe in. And for that reason, freedom of speech is a way bigger issue than a lot of people think it is. A lot of people view it as fighting back or arguing, and they try to fight for what they want, but generally it causes them to start like really bad arguments to a point where it will hurt others or it's miscommunication, and people don't understand that it can ultimately just destroy the whole purpose of freedom of speech. With freedom of speech, people should feel comfortable with whatever they say in any sense so that they can get their words across without any negative lashback said to them in any sense. For that reason, freedom of speech is a bigger thing that people need to talk about because I feel that people constantly are talking about the other things that come into it. People really confuse negative speech with it and assume that it is the wrong thing to do by having freedom of speech. By having a freedom of speech, they take it into the wrong hands and they express it through a harsh way. Sometimes people can take it too far and further affect those in a negative way by trying to give their thoughts and expressions, but in a negative way where they don't understand it is hurting other people in a sense that pulls the topic away from them entirely of what they are trying to get across. And to me, it seems like people are really, really conflicted between the two as it pulls away entirely from the initial goal and how they are going to get there. Because in this topic, I have learned a lot in the sense that people should be able to not necessarily argue their beliefs, but they should be able to express their beliefs without having other people contradicting it in a negative way. Because once that happens, people instantly shut down, and then after that they get really scared to continue to speak about what they want, and that's when it's seen where people just shut down entirely, and it just takes away from having a freedom of speech to them. Because after they see it as like a negative hate crime to speak for what they want, they instantly believe, well, there's no point in speaking of it anymore because I don't want to take away from other people's beliefs. But in reality, by speaking and having those freedom of thoughts and stuff like that, they are in the right, they aren't doing anything wrong, and people are violating like their liberty and freedom of thought and expression through being negative on how they respond to others. The response to others plays a big role in educating people about freedom of speech. If someone responds in a sense where it's like they are looking to find the good in what they are speaking about, then they are able to continue talking about it. They don't feel like they're receiving negative lashback. But however, if they do speak negatively about what someone is saying, it takes away their freedom of speech entirely. And that, to me, would indicate negative hate speech. And it would just shut down the entire purpose of having a freedom of speech. And I believe it's a social problem because it takes away what people want to express, and it doesn't make them feel like they're free to express anything, and it will take everything away from them. Thank you.